You ever notice how people hide behind smiles that don't reach their eyes? They wear their faces like costumes, pretending everything's fine while the world burns quietly behind them. Everyone's got a mask these days, not the kind you buy, no, the kind you build. One made of lies, convenience, and fear. You can see it in their eyes when they talk about being okay. You can feel it in the air, thick, heavy, fake. People don't even realize it anymore. They've been wearing it so long it's fused to their skin. Look around. Everyone's smiling, laughing, pretending they've got it all figured out. But if you look close enough, really close, you'll see the cracks. The tiny fractures beneath the fake calm. The small tremors behind the practiced smiles. It's all a performance. Everyone's wearing a mask, and the scariest part, they've worn it for so long they've forgotten what their real face looks like. They wake up, put on their roles, play their parts and call it living. But it's not life. It's theater. It's survival dressed up as stability. People wear masks to hide, to blend in, to protect what's left of their fragile truth. Some hide behind confidence, others behind sarcasm, a few behind religion or routine. It doesn't matter what the mask looks like. The purpose is the same. Keep the world from seeing the chaos underneath. Because if the world saw that chaos, it might not clap anymore. It might not love them. And that's the real fear, isn't it? Not being unloved, but being as seen. It's funny how people will do anything to appear normal. They'll lie about their pain, smile through their exhaustion, laugh when they want to scream. They'll say, "I'm fine," like it's a prayer, when really it's a confession wrapped in denial. Because the moment they admit they're broken, they lose the illusion of control. The mask is their armor. It keeps them safe from questions, from pity, from truth. But the longer they wear it, the heavier it gets. You ever notice how people become quieter the longer they wear their masks? They talk, sure, but not from their soul. Their words are rehearsed, safe, predictable. They stop saying what they feel and start saying what's acceptable. They stop being people and start becoming performances. It's mechanical. Smile, nod, agree, repeat. The world claps for the performance, but never meets the person underneath. And slowly, piece by piece, that real person starts fading away. They call it maturity, professionalism, social intelligence. But what it really is fear. Fear of exposure, fear of judgment, fear of what happens when the mask slips and the truth spills out. Because the truth isn't always pretty. It's raw, violent, unpredictable. It doesn't care about social cues or perfect timing. It just wants out. And most people spend their entire lives keeping it locked inside, terrified that if they ever let it escape, the whole facade will crumble. But here's the twist. The mask doesn't just hide you from the world. It hides the world from you. You start to see everything through its filter. You stop feeling deeply. Stop noticing the subtle shifts around you. You lose your sense of awareness because the mask dulls it. You can't see warning signs, can't sense danger, can't recognize truth anymore. You start mistaking comfort for safety, routine for peace. You tell yourself everything's fine, because that's easier than admitting you've been living behind glass. And then something happens. A disruption. A message, a shake. Something forces you to look in the mirror and realize the face staring back isn't yours anymore. It's the version you built to survive, not to live. The smile feels foreign, the eyes look hollow, and for a moment, you see it clearly. You see how long you've been hiding behind what you thought was protection. But it's not protection. It's prison. You thought you were safe inside it, but it's been suffocating you slowly, quietly, with every lie you told yourself just to make it through another day. It's not that people love their masks. It's that they fear what life would look like without them. They think the mask keeps them strong, when in truth, it keeps them numb. Because being real hurts. Being real means bleeding in public, means being misunderstood, means losing people who only loved the version of you that agreed with their illusion. That's why most never take it off. They'd rather be accepted for their mask than rejected for their truth. But the world is shifting. You can feel it in the silence between conversations, in the way people avoid eye contact, in the way laughter feels forced. Something's moving beneath the surface, pushing for exposure. It's not interested in perfection. It's interested in truth. And truth has a funny way of tearing masks apart. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It just shows up and starts peeling layers away until there's nothing left but what's real. The mask might have worked once. It might have kept you alive when life was too cruel to face unguarded. But now it's outdated armor. The world isn't asking for your performance anymore. It's asking for your presence. And that's what terrifies people most. Because when the mask falls, there's nowhere left to hide. No script. No role. Just you. The real, unfiltered, unmasked you. And that's when things start to get interesting. You know what's funny? Everyone says they want a sign, a warning, a message from above. Something clear, something loud. But when it comes, they pretend they didn't hear it. Because the truth doesn't always shout, it whispers. And whispers are easy to ignore when you're surrounded by noise. People drown in their distractions, so they don't have to face the silence. They call it staying busy, but it's really just running from themselves, from truth, from that quiet voice that keeps trying to reach them. The warning never arrives the way they expect. It's not a flash of light or some dramatic revelation. It's subtle. It's the unease in your gut when something feels off. It's the sleepless nights. The tension in the air before everything breaks. It's the feeling that something's shifting, that the ground beneath you isn't as solid as it used to be. But people shrug it off. They call it stress, anxiety, coincidence, anything but a sign. Because admitting it's a warning means they'd have to change, and change well. Change terrifies people more than truth ever could. You ever notice how people demand clarity, but reject conviction? They want truth to be polite, convenient, delivered with a smile. But truth doesn't work like that. It doesn't knock. It intrudes. It doesn't comfort, it confronts. And that's why warnings go unheard. Because they don't sound like what people want to hear. They sound like disruption, like discomfort, like something they'd rather postpone until it's too late. People always wait for things to fall apart before they listen. They need the noise of disaster to drown out the noise in their heads. When the warning is soft, they don't believe it. When it's loud, it's already too late. It's human nature. They mock the whisper and pray for the shout, not realizing the whisper was mercy. Because by the time it screams, it's no longer a warning. It's consequence. There's this arrogance that lives in people's minds, the kind that convinces them they're untouchable. They think signs are for others, not for them. They say things like, "I'll be fine. It's not that serious. I'll deal with it later." Later, the word people use to bury truth alive. But later always comes. It just doesn't come gently. Warnings aren't punishments. They're opportunities. Little cracks in the illusion that let light in. They come when you're on the wrong path. When you've ignored too many instincts. When you've stayed too long in a place that's already started decaying. But because they don't look supernatural, people dismiss them. They expect divine intervention to come wrapped in thunder, not in quiet intuition. So they miss it. They walk past miracles because they don't look cinematic enough. There's a moment before everything falls apart. You can feel it. The silence before the storm isn't peace, it's pressure. It builds slowly, testing who's paying attention. But most people mistake it for calm. They post photos, make plans, keep smiling, not realizing they're standing in the eye of something that's about to shift. That's what makes warnings so cruelly beautiful. They give you a chance to wake up before it's too late, but you rarely do. People are addicted to proof. They won't move until they see it. They won't believe until it's undeniable. But warnings don't wait for belief. They arrive whether you're ready or not. They don't need your attention to exist. They just need you to notice. But most people only start believing once they're broken. Only start listening once everything collapses. That's when they whisper to themselves, "I knew something felt wrong." But by then, the whisper's gone. And here's the trick. Warnings aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to prepare you. They come as tension, as timing, as something that feels too strange to ignore. But we label it coincidence because it's easier to pretend we're in control. Control, that's the illusion that keeps everyone blind. The idea that if you just plan enough, think enough, hope enough, you can avoid what's coming. But warnings don't care about your plans. They're not negotiable. They're directional. Sometimes the whisper isn't even in the world around you. It's inside you. That uneasy feeling when you're surrounded by people who smile too much, when you're chasing something that feels hollow, when every step forward feels like resistance. That's the whisper. That's your signal that something's misaligned. But people silence it with comfort, with routine, with distraction. They don't realize comfort is how truth dies quietly. The warning isn't there to punish you. It's there to protect you. It's the last whisper before the noise, the last pause before the fall, and the real tragedy. The signs were always there. In the timing, in the tension, in the quiet moments everyone's too afraid to sit through. The whisper is never the problem. The problem is that everyone's too busy pretending not to hear it. Protection. It's such a funny word, isn't it? People walk around thinking they're safe because they've built these walls. Money, reputation, followers, routines. But those aren't walls, they're illusions. You can't protect yourself with lies. You can't shield your soul with distractions. The world tells you to keep smiling, to keep pretending, to wear the right mask, say the right words, blend in. But real protection begins where pretense ends. Because how can you defend yourself from danger if you're too busy pretending it doesn't exist? Most people don't even know what they're defending. They fight for attention, validation, the right image. They guard their fake selves with their real hearts. They'll protect a reputation they don't even believe in, while their spirit starves behind the curtain. That's not protection. That's self-destruction with a pretty filter. You see, the moment you start pretending to be someone else, you stop protecting the real you. The truth becomes vulnerable, exposed. Because pretense doesn't block pain. It invites it in, dressed like comfort. They say masks are meant to hide, but they don't tell you they also suffocate. You wear them long enough, and you forget what breathing feels like. You start mistaking the act for identity. You start believing the version of yourself you built for survival. And that's the cruel part. Because while the mask keeps you from being hurt, it also keeps you from being healed. It's the same armor that stops the arrows that also stops the light. You can't claim to be ready for what's coming if you're still pretending you're fine. That's the lie that breaks people. The lie that says strength means silence, that survival means smiling, that faith means never feeling afraid. But pretending isn't faith. It's fear with makeup on. Real protection doesn't mean ignoring what's wrong. It means acknowledging it before it destroys you. Because denial doesn't delay disaster. It invites it closer. People mistake pretending for peace. They call it optimism, positivity, resilience. But deep down, they know it's just noise covering the echo of something they don't want to face. They wear a calm face, but their hands tremble when no one's watching. They post happiness, but cry in silence. And they tell themselves, everything's fine, as if saying it loud enough will make it true. But pretending never saved anyone. It only delays the moment you have to confront what's real. The truth is, protection starts when you stop lying to yourself. When you stop convincing yourself that everything's okay just to avoid the pain of admitting it's not. When you stop pretending the world can't touch you and start preparing for when it does. Because pretending doesn't protect, it paralyzes. It keeps you stuck in the same story, reading the same lies, hoping the ending will somehow change. But it won't. Not until you stop pretending you're invincible and start admitting you're human. And that's the irony. People hide their weakness thinking it makes them strong. But it's weakness that connects you to power. You can't receive strength if you never admit you need it. You can't be guided if you keep pretending you already know the way. The world tells you to be unbreakable, but the truth is, breaking is where the protection begins, because cracks let the light in. The same pain you hide from is often the shield being built for what's coming next. Everyone wants to be guarded, but no one wants to be exposed. Yet exposure is how you're fortified. You can't armor what you refuse to face. You can't heal what you keep hidden. That's why some people never find peace, because they confuse pretending with preparing. They think if they act like they're fine, the storm will skip them. But storms don't skip the silent. They hit hardest where the truth's been buried the longest. You think the world will protect you if you fit in, if you say the right things, if you keep your head down. But safety doesn't live in obedience. It lives in awareness. You can't see the threat if you're too busy performing. The performance might fool the crowd, but it won't fool what's coming. The danger doesn't care how convincing your smile is. It only cares how prepared your soul is. And when the mask finally cracks, and it always does, you'll realize protection was never about pretending to be untouchable. It was about being honest enough to face what you fear before it faces you. Because the moment you stop acting, the moment you strip away the noise and the lies, you see things clearly. You hear things you missed. You feel the shift. And that's when real protection begins. Not from the outside, but from within. Funny thing about truth. It doesn't destroy people, it exposes them. Everyone walks around terrified of being seen for who they really are, clutching their masks like lifelines, terrified that someone might glimpse the person underneath. But truth isn't cruel. It's just honest. It doesn't expose you to shame you. It exposes you to show you, to remind you of who you were before the world told you what to become. But no one wants that. They want the illusion, the polished version, the edited self that keeps them safe from judgment. What they don't realize is that the mask they wear to protect themselves becomes the very reason they can't breathe anymore. You see, people say they want truth, but they don't. They want comfort dressed as truth. They want reassurance disguised as revelation. They crave validation, not confrontation. Because real truth doesn't flatter you. It fractures you. It makes you uncomfortable, forces you to look at the parts you buried, the lies you told yourself to survive, the excuses you made to keep pretending you were fine. And that's what truth does best. It tears away the costume. It's not there to ruin you. It's there to reveal what's real after everything false falls apart. Most people are terrified of that moment. They spend their whole lives running from it. They think exposure means weakness, but the real weakness is living hidden. Because the longer you hide, the more fragile you become. Every mask adds another layer between you and your reality, and one day you wake up lost in your own performance. You don't even know who you're pretending for anymore. You've become a stranger in your own reflection, and all because you feared the truth that could have set you free. The truth is, masks aren't protection. They're prisons. They don't keep people out, they keep you in. You think you're fooling the world, but really, you're just fooling yourself. Every time you lie to fit in, every time you stay silent to stay safe, you build another wall between who you are and who you were meant to be. And the higher those walls get, the lonelier it becomes inside. You can fill that space with noise, attention, distractions. But deep down, you feel it. That ache that never leaves, that tension behind your smile, that exhaustion that sleep can't fix. That's what pretending does. It drains the soul drop by drop. And then comes the truth. It never knocks politely. It doesn't care about your schedule, your image, your excuses. It comes when it's time, and when it does, everything you've been hiding behind starts to crumble. You'll call it chaos, but it's really clarity. You'll call it punishment, but it's really purification. The truth isn't against you. It's for you. It just hurts because you've been living so far from it. You've built an entire world made of smoke and mirrors, and the truth doesn't play by those rules. It shows up, burns everything false, and leaves you standing there, bare and trembling, but real for the first time. People say the truth hurts, but that's not quite right. The lie is what hurts. The truth just removes the anesthesia. It makes you feel what you've been numbing. It wakes you up from the comfort of pretending. Because pretending feels safe, but it's the slowest form of self-destruction. It erodes you quietly until one day you realize you've spent your whole life protecting an image that doesn't even exist. And when truth finally reaches you, it won't ask for permission. It doesn't care how long you've been performing, how perfect your mask fits. It'll tear through it anyway. And in that moment, when the mask falls, you'll feel exposed, but you'll also feel lighter. Because pretending is heavy. Carrying lies is exhausting. You can't heal what you hide, and you can't grow in a costume. The funny part, the truth doesn't expose you to the world. It exposes you to yourself. It's not trying to humiliate you. It's trying to wake you up. To remind you that the power you're looking for isn't found in pretending to be strong, but in admitting you're tired. Not in acting like you've got it all together, but in accepting that you don't. The truth doesn't destroy your worth. It destroys your illusion. And that's the most merciful thing it could ever do. When the truth finally stands before you, you'll see it for what it is, a mirror. Cold, unfiltered, honest. It won't show you what you want to see. It'll show you what you need to face. And in that reflection, you'll finally realize it was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to protect the part of you that still remembers what it means to be real. People love to mistake stillness for safety. They see nothing happening and think everything's fine. That's the delusion that keeps them asleep, while the ground shifts beneath their feet. The signs don't always come with noise or chaos. Sometimes they come in silence. A calm so heavy it feels staged. That's when the real movement happens. Quiet, unseen, relentless. While everyone's laughing, scrolling, pretending everything's normal, something beneath it all starts to stir. But people only believe in motion when they can see it. They don't realize that the most powerful changes are the ones that happen before the eye can catch them. They call it peace. But it's not peace. It's the pause before the break. You can feel it in the air if you're paying attention. The atmosphere thickens, time slows, and your instincts whisper, something's coming. But most people dismiss it. They say, you're overthinking. You're paranoid. You worry too much. Because they'd rather laugh off intuition than admit the world is moving in ways they don't control. That's what comfort does. It makes you blind. It convinces you that quiet means stable, when in reality, quiet means pressure. It's strange, isn't it? How people ignore the signs until they're undeniable. They wait for explosions before believing in fire. They need proof before they trust their own gut. But by the time the proof arrives, it's too late. Everything they thought was solid begins to shift. People, opportunities, even their sense of purpose, all start to rearrange. And that's when it hits them. The silence wasn't empty. It was building. The stillness wasn't peace, it was preparation. When something divine moves, it doesn't announce itself with trumpets or neon lights. It slips through unnoticed, testing who's awake and who's asleep. You ever wonder why some people seem to sense things before they happen? It's not magic, it's awareness. It's what happens when you stop drowning in distraction long enough to hear the quiet pulse of what's coming. But most don't want to listen. Listening means responsibility. Awareness demands change. It's easier to pretend nothing's happening until the shift crashes through your comfort zone. And when it does, people panic. They call it unfair, unexpected, sudden. But there were signs all along. That feeling you ignored. That door that closed. That person who walked away. Every detail was a message, a realignment, a move in a plan bigger than your own. You thought you were losing, but you were being redirected. You thought you were forgotten, but you were being positioned. Because movement isn't always about motion. It's about rearranging what you can't see to make way for what you're meant to receive. That's why patience feels like punishment sometimes. Because while you're waiting, everything inside you screams for progress. You want proof that something's working, that your pain means something, that the silence isn't for nothing. But faith isn't about seeing. It's about sensing. It's about trusting the silence even when it feels like abandonment. Because that's usually when the unseen is the busiest. While you're questioning everything, something greater is adjusting the pieces. You're not being ignored, you're being aligned. People think movement means chaos, loud, fast, dramatic. But sometimes it's gentle, deliberate, invisible, like roots growing underground. You don't see them, but they're expanding, strengthening, preparing for the bloom. And the people who can sense that, who can feel the quiet shifting, they're the ones who don't panic when the noise begins. They're the ones who understood that silence was never absence. It was construction. But here's the irony. The ones who mock the stillness will be the first to call it fate when it finally happens. They'll say, "You're lucky." It happened overnight, not realizing the overnight. Took years of unseen movement. That's what divine timing does. It hides its process. It builds in shadows so that when it steps into light, no one can deny it. And those who stayed still during the silence, those who trusted instead of trembling, will rise without explanation. The shift is never random. It comes exactly when disbelief is strongest, when faith is weakest, when hope feels foolish. That's when it moves, because that's when you're forced to stop pretending you're in control. The unseen doesn't move on your schedule. It moves when your heart's ready to receive what your ego would have ruined. That's the beauty and cruelty of it. It doesn't care about your timing. It cares about your transformation. So when everything feels still, don't mistake it for stagnation. That's the whisper before the wave. That's the breath before the storm. You can feel it if you listen closely enough. The subtle hum in the air, the weight in your chest, the sense that something just shifted, even if you can't name it yet. The unseen is moving right now, and those who can sense it will be ready when it finally reveals what it's been building all along.